Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jim Patterson with EPM Live, and today we have the latest installment of our EPM Live webcast series. Our topic today is implementing enterprise project portfolio management for a multi-maturity organization. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone is in listen-only mode on the webinar, though in the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar there is a chat window if you want to offer up some questions or comments during the course of the webinar, and we have folks on board who will actually address those questions for you. So let's proceed. The topics we're going to cover today as part of this is, who are the real people in an organization that use a PPM system, and what are the needs that they have in that regard? We're also going to touch on the PPM or Project Portfolio Management Maturity Model and how that applies to what we want to do from a PPM solution deployment. Then we'll talk about the enterprise PPM tool itself and some considerations there. Then we'll also talk about how we actually customize or tailor the enterprise tool or PPM solution for all the work, all the users, and all the processes that are being managed within an organization. And then we'll wrap up talking about the overall benefits of a multi-maturity PPM tool that addresses the needs of a lot of different constituencies. So that's the approach we're going to take today. So who uses a PPM system? Well, there's a lot of different levels of an organization. There's different units and or departments or business units in an organization that have requirements to do project and portfolio management. But that being said, the value proposition for PPM is not the same for all levels or tiers of the organization, depending on where you sit in the management structure. And then to be successful and sustainable, the PPM solution really must provide real benefits at all levels of the organization and also address the needs of different aspects or different units of the organization, because it's not necessarily the same across the board. So if we look at some of the key areas that must be addressed by our PPM solutions, we obviously have the executive stakeholders. Those are the folks that sponsor our projects, fund our projects, make sure that we're working on the things that align with our business objectives. They have that executive perspective. They also want a lot of visibility into what's going on. Once they bless and give budget and funding and backing to a project, they want to make sure how those things are proceeding over time and how we're executing. Are we executing on time, on budget, and with the right quality of what we're going to deliver? So the executive stakeholders are very key in this whole PPM process. From a manager's perspective, this is kind of mid-management, but also can also fold in the aspect of project managers or folks that are working in fulfilling certain roles in a project management or program management organization or a PMO. And those folks' needs have to be met because they're really charged with managing effective projects and programs and really delivering them. They're ultimately accountable for delivering them successfully. And they're going to look at things like, when will it really finish? What will it cost? And how can I decrease the cycle time or time to market? What's the best ways that I can collaborate with all the participants, both internal and external? So the managers, whether they be project managers or PMO folks, need to have their needs met in the solution as well. And we have different folks with different disciplines that maybe have different needs or different levels of, let's just say, readiness or project management training. Obviously, at the bottom, you have your resource managers. A lot of organizations today are very matrixed, where resource managers or functional managers actually own the resources that get supplied to support the projects being managed by the project managers. And their needs are more around the fact, how do we support that? How do we offer the right skills and capabilities to those projects to get the work done? And a lot of their pain points are about who is available to staff those new projects, who's working on what, and do they have the right skills to meet the needs of a specific project or the subject matter expertise? So working very closely with project management without having the right resources at the right time and ready to tackle the level of rigor that the project is going to leverage is a success factor for our projects. And obviously, the biggest constituency is really the team members. The folks that are assigned to these projects, the people that are actually doing the work and delivering tasks and delivering pieces to help the overall project go. And the idea is that their goals are, how do I know what's expected of me? What am I expected to deliver? How can I coordinate with people on my team, and how can I communicate to my management what I've accomplished or any challenges that I'm having? The idea here is that these are the general things that these roles need to provide, but depending on where they sit in an organization, the level of sophistication, the level of rigor, the level of project management maturity may vary across the board. So in a typical company, you may have multiple organization units. At the enterprise, you're looking at the total company or the total organization, but down below, you're probably broken into different disciplines, business units, or departments. So for example, some we find often in PPM deployments are the IT organization, new product development, marketing organizations, finance, engineering and R&D. Those types of things all exist. Now, they all don't do the same type of work. They all don't have the same level of sophistication or training or rigor from a project management perspective, but we still have to manage and deliver work successfully in all these different disciplines within a company. So they have different types of projects and work. They have diverse processes, meaning the work methods that are used to deliver those projects can vary widely. Also, the level of rigor as far as sophistication or depth of project management process can vary or even be required. So for example, a large capital project in an engineering realm would require more rigor and more project management process than, say, a higher level marketing project, for example, within an organization, typically. So what it ends up happening by default, if this stuff happens organically, is the methods and the tools that are used by these different departments to manage projects and manage resources and manage portfolios of projects are likely not consistent. Everyone feels their needs are different. They have to have their own tools, and they don't want to be beholden to any standards that have been maybe put in place by other parts of the organization. So typically, diverse needs, diverse perceptions, diverse processes, and definitely tools are typically not consistent if left to our own devices. So let's see how that dovetails into our PPM maturity model. Those of you that actually joined us in one of our earlier webcasts during our PPM Challenge series might want to check us out at the epmlive.com website, and under events and under webinars, we do have a recording about improving your PPM maturity within your organization. So we're not going to rehash all that today, and you can actually go back and look at that recorded webinar on demand. But the concept here is that PPM maturity varies from organization to organization, and it varies in a lot of different dimensions. There's the people aspect, how are they trained and ready, and what kind of experience do they have in project and portfolio management. There's the PPM processes, what's are in place, what's defined, and what's actually being followed within the organization. There's the technology aspect, what tools and infrastructure is in place to actually support the processes and the people that are actually performing PPM within an organization. And then obviously different levels of rigor in the areas of, say, financial management and cost management, and the way relationships are managed both internally and with external partners and contractors, etc. The key here is that for our purposes today, we often talk about whether an organization is level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3 in their capabilities and maturity from a PPM perspective. But very often, that is often variable within individual organizations. As I showed earlier on, different departments or business units within a company in and of themselves may have a widely varied level of maturity even within the same organization. And if we try to get them to adopt a similar tool, similar methods, and similar processes, we're probably setting ourselves up for failure, at least for the folks that have the least readiness or experience in the PPM realm. So if you look at this in a more simplistic fashion from a project management maturity perspective, we look at people, process, and tools, which is kind of the more common ones people look at, is if you look at level 1 or initially, a lot of organizations that are lower level of maturity, the folks managing projects may not have any project management background at all. They may be what we call accidental project managers. They may be very good technical people, and they were thrust into the role of project manager without really having been trained in the discipline of how to manage projects and all the science and skill and art that goes behind doing that. The processes in those type of organizations may be a little bit more ad hoc, where we follow things generally, we do things on an as-needed basis, on demand, and then the tools and the technology that's used could vary widely from doing it on paper, Word documents, email, Excel spreadsheets, or it could be all of the above, even on a single project. So the idea is that there's not a lot established from a consistency perspective at that level. The next level, you might have folks that have some basic project management training. They understand the concept. They understand the success factors. They understand the dimensions and the aspects that need to be addressed to deliver a project successfully, other than just on the technical realm. Your project management processes may be more standardized, or at least documented and thought through, and at least an effort to have people follow a consistent process through the project management life cycle. And then from a technology and tools perspective, we might have common templates, a common scheduling tool, maybe a common collaboration tool or form where people can communicate. So those things would all be steps up from that first level that we talked about. And then level 3 might be we have more professionally certified project managers, maybe with PMI's Project Management Institute's PMP certification. Maybe we automate the technology so that we have automated workflows and things that flow from a technology basis, so we're not chasing down information and the information flows nicely through the organization. We might have standardized reporting that gives us the type of metrics that we're looking for consistently from project to project. And then we might have technology and tools that not only handle project management or EPM on an enterprise basis, but also manage the portfolio and look at things and making sure that we're working on the right things at all times within the organization. So these are some of the aspects that we're looking at. And these different dimensions, for example, we could be doing a deployment in a specific company where different constituencies or different parts of the enterprise may be at all 3 of these different levels individually. And we have to address the needs based upon where they're at today and the level of readiness that they have. So if we look at maturity and readiness, here's a typical layout using the same department or business unit examples that I have. In a not one-size-fits-all type of aspect, you might have an IT organization which manages a lot of projects and has probably put a lot of discipline in place to manage the large portfolio of projects and requests that they get. And that type of organization may be at a level 3 maturity, where, say, finance, where they're maybe not used to doing a lot of projects, and maybe when they have a big upgrade and other things like that, maybe a traditional project management process or discipline isn't put in place, but they still have to manage projects and work and deliver to support the overall goals of the organization. They could be at a level 0 or a level 1. Marketing might be a little more farther along because they're delivering market research to help new product development, for example, or maybe they're putting out collateral and campaigns and things like that that are projects. So they may have a little bit different level, but maybe at no point do they require the same level of rigor as, say, IT or engineering. So you get the idea here where even within the same enterprise, different units or business units can have various different needs or levels of readiness to actually adopt and take on a PPM process or a tool. But the readiness for adoption is something that needs to be considered when any tool rollout's being done. It's a key success factor. If we can't sustain what we put in place, then it's not going to succeed and it's not going to endure. So we need the flexibility to address the requirements that vary across different parts of an organization. So how does that translate into the enterprise PPM tool itself? Well, if we take a maturity perspective on this once again, if you look at it, the Gartner Group and others feel that most organizations are somewhere between a level 1 and a level 2 level of maturity with their project and portfolio management. So that being said, if that's the majority of the folks that are out there, and we have a lot of high capability tools that can do a lot of things that are available to us out there, and in this diagram what it's really depicting is, let's say we are really a level 2 organization, but we select a PPM tool and we build a deployment plan and intend to roll out functionality, capabilities, and features that are more level 4 in their nature. that provides from level 2 to level 4 the level of risk you're taking on and the expectation of what you want to get out of your PPM solution. If you really only have level 2 capability within your organization and you roll out level 4 capabilities of a tool set and a process, chances are that the organization is not going to execute on that as well as you would like with the quality you would like over time. So the key is trying to be honest with ourselves and figuring out in each aspect of the organization that's going to be touched by our solution, where are we really? Self-assess and say, are we really a level 2? Are we a 1.5? You know, are we level 3 somewhere based upon the criteria that's there? And there's a lot of good documentation out there as far as the criteria, even beyond the bullets that you see here. And we'll make these slide decks available to you after the webinar. But the idea is that be honest with yourself with the criteria you're at and build a plan for a deployment of a PPM solution that is commensurate with where you're at today. Because if you look at project and portfolio management solutions, they're very robust. They have a lot of different dimensions to them, and they have a lot of different capabilities that you can take advantage of. The real question is, what are you prepared to leverage and avail yourself of successfully out of these tool sets? If we look at this PPM big picture, and we look at it from the top down as an end-to-end process, all the way from a demand management process where you capture ideas and project requests and work requests and proposals, all the way down through portfolio management where you start to score and quantify and qualify these things to see how well they align with our business objectives, what value will they provide to the organization, what priority should we give them in the overall mix of things that are being requested of us. And out of that funnel of selection process is going to come work. And whether it's more operational in its nature or more project-directed in its nature, all of that work's got to be managed and executed to successful completion. So from a project management, operational management, and the collaboration that has to happen to successfully accomplish these things, we need to consider all these things as far as the readiness or maturity of our organization. And obviously the reporting that we get out of this, the business intelligence, et cetera, is going to be, let's just say, a high correlation between what we put in and what we can get out. So the reality is these are very robust capabilities. No organization tackles all of the nodes of this and definitely the sub-bullets in these nodes in one big bang approach to rolling out a PPM solution. So it's really a matter of figuring out which ones apply, which ones are high priority for us, and which aspects of this are we really ready to deploy now, and maybe which we should prepare to deploy later on, etc. Because each one of these areas and sub-areas in this diagram really represents a process that's got to be put in place, whether it be intake of requests, whether it be prioritization of projects and decision making, whether it be how we schedule and disseminate information and work to people. These are all things that are process that need to be put in place that is often changed, modified, or enhanced as part of a rollout. And every process that changes impacts the people who are going to use the system and actually impacts your overall culture. So we have to strike the balance of what we're ready for on an organization by organization basis or even a department or business unit within those organizations. That being said, if we start going from, say, a level 0 to a level 1, for example, where people are doing more ad hoc things that we talked about, maybe have a bunch of different spreadsheets and Word documents and emails to manage projects. For some folks, to start with just getting their projects done in a consistent fashion, to use a common scheduling tool or common scheduling templates, and then provide basic collaboration around the execution of those projects like issue and risk management, document and artifact management, managing the changes that come through, but looking at it from a real task and deliverable perspective, and doing that consistently can be a big leap forward for a lot of organizations, especially if you're looking at, say, level 1 or level 0 capability. So for a lot of folks, this is a good starting point, even though it looks to be only a very small subset of the big picture that we're talking about here. Now, for other folks, they may want to add portfolio visibility, where instead of managing individual projects effectively and having each of them be self-contained as teams and project efforts and just making sure we deliver those individually, What about taking that and then building on it so that we can then have a multitude of projects being managed, but then have automatic visibility and roll-up of the portfolio so that we can see status, we can track, we can see what's going on in completion progress within the individual projects, and get that kind of visibility along with all the different projects having their collaborative and standards being met consistently across the organization. So that's a way to get maybe up to that 1.5 and level 2 level of project management within an organization correlated to tool capability. Others may really want to tackle this more from a top-down approach, meaning the execution side of things may not be where they feel that their biggest bang is. For example, what if an organization feels that our biggest problem is the fact that we've got too much coming in and we never say no to anything? Maybe we have to be more selective. Maybe we have to start determining where our money's best spent to get the best bang for the buck for our investments. And by getting a handle on that demand side of things and saying yes selectively with objective measures to work on the right things, maybe the goal there is that the execution side will get better just because we're not always overloaded because we've never said no. So that's another approach that's equally as valid, but depending on your maturity area and where your pain points are, this may be another approach to getting into the big picture. Truth be told, though, doing this for as many years as I have, our entry point into this big picture could be any one of these nodes. The idea is determining and leveling with yourself as an organization where are your biggest pain points, where are your biggest gaps and needs, what's most achievable and sustainable given the level of maturity and preparation your organization has, and what can we sustain over time. What you want to do is improve your organization and stretch your organization, but not make such a big leap that you break the organization and fail. So the key here is, for some folks, I've had folks deploy PPM just from a business intelligence perspective. They're tired of doing manual reports and they want to get in and have centralized reporting and have it be more automated and distributed so that the generation of reports isn't a research project in and of itself that requires days of effort. So the key here is that your entry point is really dependent on you, and any one of those approaches is likely as valid as any other depending on your circumstance. The key is that PPM tools like we offer at EPM Live really have a lot of feature-based capabilities in it. And the real question is, what are the things that you can actually leverage? What can you leverage successfully? And what can you leverage now versus, say, in a more near-term future versus a more long-term future? And this answer may be different depending on where you sit in the organizational structure. We talked about those different organizations, business units, or departments having different types of work. In this example, we might have different templates or different collaborative forms for different types of projects with different templates. You might have more traditional waterfall projects for more development projects or more traditional PMI-based PMBOK type projects. You might have a different type of project workspace that has different process and different content for new product development, for example. You might have, say, construction or facilities work. You might have more ad hoc services work and things that are more unplanned that you want to manage within the mix because it taps your resources just as much, if not more so, than the project work. You might have more agile type of work for software development or product development that allow you to do more iterative-based planning. The key is you want a tool that not only addresses multiple maturity within the organization, but also addresses the varied and different types of work that you're responsible for delivering on within the entire organization. So going back to this type of view, you want some flexible deployment options. So for example, at the enterprise, we don't have to mandate or enforce or impose a common set of standards across all. If you go down to that business unit or department level depicted by this red level here within this chart, you can actually have sub-portfolios, or in essence sub-solutions within the enterprise with the same tool set that have different templates, different levels of rigor, different content, so that each of those business units can be managed to their own drummer, to their own standards, to their own processes, yet have commonality of elements that can roll up and provide reporting at the enterprise level. It just takes a little bit of forethought, an understanding of the requirements and the organizational readiness and maturity, and a deployment plan can be built to accommodate all these different levels of area, even if they're very diverse. So what EPM Live does is we really provide different tiers or different offerings of solution that really kind of track along the route of maturity. So for example, if we go from left to right here, like on the maturity curve, for folks that want basic web-based project collaboration, we have, for example, our PortfolioEngine tool that provides online, interactive schedule management and team collaboration for doing these things on an individual project basis. WorkEngine, more of an enterprise visibility and portfolio visibility, and adding things like resource management, time reporting, and different types of work management, whether it be operational work and service requests, backlog items and agile work, and other types of project efforts and different methodologies are supported beyond PortfolioEngine in there. And then PortfolioEngine steps up to a full-blown PPM and EPM tool where we can do strategic top-down planning and selection along with very robust collaborative execution. The key here is that in the EPM Live suite, for a multi-maturity organization, having all of these capabilities in different tiers is very key. The reason being, let's just say I'm an organization now that's kind of starting down in that PortfolioEngine realm. Let's just say our finance or marketing area that really hasn't been embarked upon a high rigor project management process. They can start there for their organization, yet that you could have, for example, the IT organization or say a new product development area in the more of the WorkEngine realm of capabilities and what they want to do from their discipline perspective. And you might have your facilities or maybe your IT organization more on the PortfolioEngine realm because their readiness, their maturity, and the amount of time that they've been delving into this subject matter might be more robust. What ends up happening today is that there are different tiers of tools out there in the marketplace. There's a lot of lightweight tools that might be commensurate with PortfolioEngine, but they're lightweight tools. They don't go any farther than what they do. They have their limitations are their limitations, and when you hit the ceiling, you then have to abandon that tool and then figure out another tool to buy and deploy and go through the churn of moving into another solution. In the EPM Live suite, going from PortfolioEngine to WorkEngine is an incremental addition of capabilities within the same foundational piece of technology. And the same holds true going from WorkEngine to PortfolioEngine, meaning you can start as lightweight, midweight, or as heavyweight as you want in different organizations, but you will always have the growth space or the headroom to grow with the tool set, and each organization can grow at the pace that makes the most sense for them. That's the value proposition of what we're providing for multi-maturity organizations. So PortfolioEngine is really an online workplace that does a lot of the basics to allow teams or work groups and organizations to connect and collaborate on projects and tasks. It really provides the ability to get project management on a collaborative fashion out to everyone. You can manage individual projects by setting up collaborative workspaces or venues to manage these projects, do simple schedule and task management and have people get task assignments online collaboratively and be able to feedback progress, and have collaborative workspaces where people can share documents, where they can actually log issues and solve them, where they can actually collaborate on change requests and other things. And the idea here is we do this in a SharePoint basis environment. So whether you do our solutions in-house or online in more of a SaaS model, the conventions and navigation are familiar and easy to use. So the key is it's simple to get up, simple capabilities, but all the basics from a project execution perspective on a project-by-project basis. To step up to WorkEngine, think about all the capabilities of managing individual projects, but then taking it to the next level. The idea being you might have project workspaces to manage individual projects, but WorkEngine provides you automated roll-up and visibility into aggregate information across all those workspaces. So automated roll-up of all information like project metrics, resource allocation information on how people are distributed, capacity versus demand from a very detailed assignment basis. issue tracking, looking at issues across all projects, and more importantly, managing all types of work. We have planning tools like our online planner or bi-directional integration with Microsoft Project that allow you to do more waterfall type projects. We have an agile planner that allows you to capture backlog and features and defects and user stories and be able to plan them on a sprint or iteration basis, definitely a different planning basis than what happens with the traditional waterfall projects. And then interject service work like tickets and service requests so that we can track demands against our resources, because oftentimes our resources, we're competing with for them from these different types of work, and getting total visibility into that is something that WorkEngine can provide. Program management with multiple schedules in a project workspace, all contributing to a common program, something that's handled very nicely within WorkEngine. And then having an extended reporting solution in this solution, so you can report against all this as a natural output of the process without having to compile data from different data sources, is something that's offered in this WorkEngine tool. So as you can see, from Project Engine going to WorkEngine, we've stepped up in capability, but to get that capability, we also stepped up in maturity and stepping up to the plate in more, a little bit more project rigor and a little more discipline. If you head up to PortfolioEngine, essentially from the bottom bullet, it contains all the capabilities that WorkEngine has from a project execution perspective. So we don't lose anything there, but what we layer on is more of that top-down strategic planning. So from a PPM perspective, being able to score, rank projects objectively with weighted scoring, and looking at things like returns and net present value and internal rates of return and return on investment to make objective decisions about which projects to work on, and to do portfolio selection and see which ones best align with our corporate strategies. You know, resource capacity planning from the top down, so that at a high level you can see what skill sets we need. And without having a lot of detailed scheduling at first, being able to see what the resource requirements are to see if we have the proper staffing or need to contract what we need. Or do we have to cut some projects just because we can't deliver the resources that are needed? Detailed line item cost planning and budgeting, something that is very helpful when somebody's looking to bring a project online. You know, what's it going to cost me? What's the budget? What's the timing of the dollars that we're going to have to spend for this? And very important in this is the what-if modeling and optimization. Folks that want to capture all this information about proposed and active projects want to do some trade-offs and say, what if we did this project and didn't do that one? What if we took this project and said, what if we can do it if we moved it out 3 months to 6 months? Let's see if that fits in within our budgets and with our capacity of resources. These are things where we can do a variety of scenarios to see what's the most optimal mix of projects that meet both the alignment objectives of our organization and within our resource constraints like people and dollars. So the key is these are capabilities that are higher maturity that get you into working on the right projects and executing on those in a consistent fashion. So with that being said, you know, you need to tailor an enterprise tool for a multi-maturity organization, because there's all different types of work, all different types of users in different disciplines within a multifaceted organization, and there's a number of different processes, as we mentioned before, to get all this work accomplished. So once again, looking at this hierarchy, you know, if we're going to structure this and meet the needs of individual organizations, we have to identify the unique needs and determine the unique needs of each of these individuals. We would then have to design the sub-portfolio so the metrics, the KPIs, and the ways we're going to track and manage these projects are met for each of these different organizations. And we can also keep an eye on which are the common elements that we want to roll up data to the enterprise. You know, things on projects like when they start, when they finish, percent completes, resource utilization in terms of hours and things like that tend to be common pieces of elements that you can roll up. And a lot of metrics and KPIs can be rolled up even if you have diverse processes and methods being done at that business unit or department level. Also, this type of structure will allow you to determine security access so that perhaps certain areas of your organization need to be more secure and more restricted in their visibility in what's going on, like say in a technology R&D area where you don't really want everyone to see what's coming down the pike because it's sensitive information at this point in time. So the key here is we want to look at these and look at the unique needs for each of these different sub-areas. The other key is that most organizations, with the different types of work we talked about, whether they be traditional projects, whether they be more agile application development and management, or more ad hoc type of service requests, typically what's found out there today is based upon just need and the way it's been in the past, is that these things have all been disconnected systems and processes, separate silos of information, separate applications, separate databases. And the work is being managed by parallel processes that really don't cross or connect with one another. It also necessitates that there's multiple entry points of work that is associated. So if I'm a resource that does project work, application work, and service work, I have to go to 3, 4, maybe 5 applications to get my work done, or to fulfill my requirements on reporting on the work that I'm doing. So each department silo then has to support enforce its own processes prior to deployment, which adds to complexity of compliance and just makes it a lot less user-friendly to deal with these things. Our philosophy is that it's advantageous to have all the work in one solution. And what EPM Live does is provide solutions, and we do this either on a hosted or a SaaS model or in a licensed solution that you can install in your own SharePoint infrastructure. We look at this lavender level at the bottom with SharePoint and SQL Server. So everything sits on that platform. Now, depending on how broad or narrow a definition of work you want to take within this organization, you could actually have traditional projects, you can do agile work and service work. But the actual work items, the assignable things that actually get put on people's plate can be very varied. You know, tasks, just like project tasks in a schedule like you'd get from, like, say, a Microsoft project or a scheduling tool. But even from a traditional project management realm, oftentimes there's more actionable things. There are more actionable things that are required to accomplish to be successful in your project. There are issues that get arisen and have to be tackled and closed. There's lower level to-dos and action items that don't rise to the level of a line item in your Gantt chart. There's change requests that have to be managed and approved and done in a controlled fashion. These are things in traditional projects beyond just what's in your Gantt chart or your schedule. From a more agile approach, you know, you have backlog items that people are making requests and user stories for things that they'd like to see features and added to the products, and defects corrected, and bugs that have to be addressed. These are things that can be work items that are assigned to folks that are part of their workload to work on. And then things like service requests, that unplanned stuff where people actually say, this is broken and I need you to go fix it, something you weren't counting on but it's now assigned to you. How does it fit into the overall mix of the work that you're doing? What's nice about EPM Live is that it handles all of these disciplines through its applications, but then rolls up that information from an enterprise work capability so we can see an entire portfolio of projects and work. We can see a cohesive schedule for an individual and what's on their plate, or just for an entire project or set of projects. From a resource management perspective, we can see from a capacity versus demand whether or not people have been overloaded or whether or not they have any availability to take on yet another task. We can have cost and budget management to make sure that we're planning each of these efforts in a very line item based fashion to get very positive cost control on our projects. There's time management, that if you want to actually not just report progress and accomplishment against these tasks, we have an out-of-the-box timesheet where you can actually report time and actual hours spent against that. So you can track your metrics, what it really takes you to do things, or better yet, for a type of organization that needs to bill that to customers and bill billable hours, or internal chargebacks and track those on a very definitive and not an estimated type of basis. And then from a work management perspective, one solution provides me as a resource one place to go to look at all work. I could actually have a work bin called My Work that actually shows me all of the project work, action items, agile backlog items, service requests. Any actionable item can be presented to me in one forum so I can see what's expected of me at all times, see what's new on my plate, and provide all the feedback that's required of me on accomplishment in one simple place. So having this all in one place with different levels of rigor and different levels of maturity makes it simple for an organization to address this and have management get the visibility it's looking for across all these different types of work. To that end, depending on the types of projects or non-project work you have, EPM Live offers a number of pre-built solution templates. So if you're using more of a traditional waterfall PMI PMBOK approach, more iterative-based Agile Scrum, Prince 2, Other methods that might be in there, we have some out-of-the-box templates, but all of these can be tailored with relatively basic SharePoint skills to have the content, the work process, and the workflows and methods that you want for each different project types. As I showed earlier on, all of these can coexist in the same solution. So when you embark or you initiate a new project, you select the appropriate template for the type of work that's being done, and the methodology and the content will follow through it, like documentation, forms, and appropriate workflows and methods. So when you go to apply this to your organization, what are the realistic things that we want to do? Well, given the fact and the premise that we have that even within a singular organization there could be multiple levels of maturity in the different business units or departments, what we want to do when we apply this to any of those entities is to objectively assess the maturity of the current organization and its PPM practices. Let's be honest with ourselves before we build a plan. Where are we really? Not where we think we are or not where we would like to be. And then once we determine the maturity level required to perform the functions in the tool, let's put a rollout plan in accordance, and let's reflect back to that big picture. Let's deploy the things that we can sustain today, have a success at that level, and then move on and add additional capabilities as we go. If we are honest with ourselves and determine a maturity level and where we're at, we can then tailor a strategy that first focuses on the areas that most need improvement. That could be our biggest pain points. That could be the lowest hanging fruit. Where can we actually get the biggest bang for the buck and show improvement right away? And I think the key here is that you want to tackle this in incremental phases. Oftentimes with these PPM solutions, since they're so robust in the capabilities, people get their big eyes, and the eyes get bigger than their stomach. And they try to tackle too much too early in a solution and set themselves up for failure. The most successful deployments I've seen have been incremental successes where you have a series of incremental wins and incremental return on investment, that each time you go for that next wave, you have success to point to get that next wave of funding and the next wave of management support. At the end of the day, you will get all the capabilities you want, but on a timetable that makes the most sense for your organization. So in that realm, please do consider the strengths and weaknesses of your current staff, your current process, and your current culture when you actually fashion a roadmap and a development plan for deploying a PPM tool across a multi-maturity organization. So to just wrap up a little bit, the benefits of going with a multi-maturity PPM tool, one that can address the needs of a broad audience or a broad set of constituencies, is that it can meet the business units and users where they're at today. You don't have to dumb it down for the lowest common denominator. You don't have to just say, hey, organization A can only do such, so everybody has to go into that. Conversely, you don't have to hit a level of rigor that meets the needs of your more sophisticated organization and have everybody else churn and try to keep up in a futile attempt to make it work for them if they're not ready to do so. So we're addressing different tiers of PPM needs across different areas or audiences in the organization. One of the big financial benefits is that by doing it all in one tool set, it precludes the need to buy different tools for each audience. And we see this over and over again. You have 5 different audiences. They might go out and procure each their own tool. None of them talk to each other. And not only that, you have license fees, you have hosting fees, you have maintenance fees, and you have all the deployment and support fees for managing 5 different technologies and 5 different silos of information, let alone having to do the manual reporting to grab data from all of those if you want to do any enterprise reporting at all. By having it one key tool set for a multi-maturity organization, we now have a facility and we now have a forum and a basis for providing management visibility to all work. Now that we're in the same technology, the same database, and the same solution, rolling up even the lower level of rigor, a lower level of maturity projects with the higher level of maturity of projects becomes a much more realistic proposition through automated reports, dashboards, online portfolio views, etc., so that management get the visibility they want on a more real-time basis with less effort to put that data forth than it would be in the past without such a tool set. It also provides room for maturity growth for all groups. So if we meet each business unit and each group where they're at today, but then put a roadmap and a plan in place for them to grow and get better over time, we can each start them at their own place and put them on their own roadmap, on their own timetable, yet still have it all be housed and facilitated and enabled by a common tool set and a common solution. Another key piece, and I think this holds true with us because of our SharePoint basis, or even the fact that all of our levels of our tool are based upon the same foundation, is that if you do that, as people grow, they don't have to learn new tool sets and new technologies as they get to the next level. It facilitates ease of adoption and actually lowers the learning curve because it's incremental adds to technology and user experience that they're already familiar with, meaning project management, resource management, and the PPM discipline is a process that takes some learning and some growth in and of itself. Why not make it easier with the tool set to make sure that we can streamline these things and give something that someone's familiar about navigating around and can understand very readily because they're doing other things in there as well. So those are just some of the high-level key benefits of why you might want to handle multi-maturity needs for PPM within a similar tool set like we're doing here at EPM Live. If you'd like to explore this further and our different levels of our tool sets and our capabilities, go visit us at epmlive.com. You can either sign up for a free site for PortfolioEngine or for trials on either WorkEngine or PortfolioEngine. Remember, we do offer this online or as licensed solutions. And if you have specific questions or you'd like a detailed demonstration or have someone discuss with you how these might dovetail with your specific requirements, reach out to us at epmlive.com at our info@epmlive.com email address. With that, I would like to thank you all for joining us today. Keep looking at our events page for our webinars. I believe we have another webinar next week, next Thursday, and in our continuing series to keep you guys informed and add value to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So thanks again, and have a great day.